It was early morning. The sky was still gray. The park was almost empty. Only the sound of cold wind moved through the trees. On a wooden bench near the playground sat a small girl. She looked no older than 9. She wore a worn-out red jacket, black jeans, and her shoes were too big. She held a backpack tightly in her lap like it was the only thing she owned. Her eyes were wide, not from wonder, but from fear. She kept looking around. Every time someone walked by, she flinched. It was like she was hiding from something, or someone. Her name was Emily. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Her fingers were numb, but she didn't cry. She just waited. She opened her backpack and took out a drawing. It was of a woman with kind eyes and long curly hair. Above it, written in messy handwriting, "My mom. She is not bad." Emily looked at the drawing and whispered, "I'll find you, I promise." At that moment, a police car slowly pulled up near the edge of the park. Officer Daniel Grant stepped out. He was tall, clean-shaven, in his mid-40s. He had tired eyes. The kind of eyes that had seen too much. He had received a strange call. "We have a possible runaway child at Maplewood Park. Dangerous behavior. Proceed with caution." But when he saw the little girl sitting alone, he frowned. She didn't look dangerous. She looked lost. He walked slowly toward her. "Hey there," Officer Grant said gently. "You okay?" Emily didn't answer. She gripped her backpack tighter. "What's your name?" he asked. Still nothing. He took a step closer. "You're not in trouble. I just want to help." Finally, Emily spoke. Her voice was soft, almost broken. "I didn't steal anything. I just want to find my mom." Grant paused. "No one said you stole anything," he replied, confused. But in his earpiece, the dispatch repeated, "Child has no record, no foster file, no ID. Orders are to detain immediately." Grant's face changed. "Orders detained. But she's just a little girl." He knelt down and asked gently, "Where are you from?" "Emily. I don't know," she said. "I lived in 2 houses. Then they moved me. I ran away. I didn't like them. They were mean." More officers arrived. A crowd started to gather. Grant stood up, conflicted. "Emily," he said, "I need you to come with me. Just for now. We'll get this all sorted." She backed away. "No, please. I didn't do anything wrong. Emily, I promise. I'm not going to hurt you." But by then, the other officers moved in quickly. One of them grabbed her arm. "Let go." She screamed, "Let go." Grant stepped in, stopping the rough officer. "She's a child, not a criminal." But the rules were clear. No ID, no guardian, no paperwork. She had to be detained. The handcuffs clicked. And the entire park froze. A child in cuffs. Phones came out. People started filming. Some shouted, "What are you doing? She's just a little girl. This is wrong." Emily was crying now, louder, heartbroken, but no one was helping her. Officer Grant bent down beside her. His voice dropped to a whisper. "I believe you, Emily. I believe your mom isn't bad, and I'm going to find out what's going on." Emily stopped crying for a second. Her lips trembled. You believe me." He nodded, and then whispered something else in her ear. What he said, no one heard. But whatever it was, Emily's eyes went wide. She looked like her entire world had just changed. The crowd grew louder. More cops pushed them back. Grant gently lifted Emily into the police car. No force, no anger, but his face was filled with questions. Who gave the order to arrest a child with no record? Why was she marked as dangerous? Why did her name show up in no system? And who was the woman in the drawing? Inside the station, Emily sat in a small interview room. A warm drink was placed in front of her. She didn't touch it. Grant stood on the other side of the glass window, watching. His partner, Officer Lee, joined him. "You good?" Lee asked. "No," Grant replied. "Something's off." Orders came from the top. Some private message through the department. They said the kid's a threat. "A threat?" Grant scoffed. "She's 9. Lee shrugged. Grant opened his hand. Inside was the crumpled drawing Emily had dropped. He stared at the woman's face. Her eyes looked familiar. Then he remembered something. Years ago, before he became a cop, there was a scandal. A young woman, a psychologist, had tried to expose abuse inside the foster care system. She vanished soon after. No charges. No news. No body. But people whispered she had a daughter. And the system buried them both. Grant looked again at the drawing. Could it be? That night, when everyone had gone home, Grant stayed behind. He walked into the evidence room, pulled out Emily's backpack, started searching inside, beneath a torn book and old snack wrappers. He found something. A letter. Torn. Faded. Written. In a woman's handwriting. "Emily, if you ever find this, remember, I didn't leave you. I was taken. And I love you more than the world." His hands shook. This wasn't a case. This was a cover-up, and the truth was just beginning to show. He put the letter back, looked up at the camera in the room. Someone was watching. Always watching. But it didn't matter now. He had made a decision. "I'm going to find her mother," he whispered to himself. "And I'm going to fix this." The station was quiet at night. Most officers had gone home. Only the soft humming of old computers and the sound of a flickering light filled the silence. Officer Daniel Grant sat at his desk, staring at the letter he found in Emily's bag. His fingers brushed over the faded words again. I didn't leave you, I was taken. And I love you more than the world. Grant's heart was heavy. He had been a cop for almost 20 years. He had seen liars, criminals, and broken people. But something about Emily, something felt different. She wasn't lying. She wasn't confused. She was telling the truth, and now, he was sure of it. Someone powerful didn't want that truth to come out. He stood up, walked down the hallway, and unlocked the records room. It was cold inside. Tall cabinets lined the walls, each drawer filled with files of missing children, foster kids, custody reports. He pulled open the cabinet marked Runaways. He typed Emily's name into the search system. Emily, 9 years, black hair, brown eyes. Last seen Maplewood Park. Nothing, no photo, no foster record, no missing persons alert, just a blinking message. No match found. That wasn't normal. Even kids in foster homes had at least some ID. Even fake names showed something. He typed again. Still nothing. Who erased her? He whispered. Suddenly, a soft sound behind him. He turned fast, but no one was there. Just shadows and the hum of the computer. He felt uneasy. He knew someone had eyes inside this building. Someone who didn't want Emily's story discovered. But Grant wasn't going to stop. The next morning, Officer Lee walked into the station. With coffee, you're here early, he said. I never left. Grant replied. He handed Lee the note from Emily's backpack. Lee read it slowly, then looked up. Where did you get this? Her bag, Grant said. It was hidden. Lee frowned. This handwriting looks familiar. Grant opened a file from his drawer. It was over 10 years old. A woman named Dr. Sarah Bennett, former child psychologist. She reported abuse in the foster system, Grant said. She tried to expose it. Then she disappeared. Lee nodded slowly. I remember that. Whole case just vanished. Everyone stopped talking. And Emily draws a woman who looks just like her, Grant said. You think she's the daughter? I don't think. I know. Later that day, Grant walked into the evidence room again. He took Emily's backpack and flipped the lining. Inside out, a small photo had been sewn into the fabric. A woman holding a baby, both smiling. The woman had the same eyes as Emily. On the back, a name was written in pen, Sarah B. That was enough for him. Back in the main office, he typed Sarah Bennett into the police database. Record sealed by internal order, access denied. He tried another way. Still locked. He called a friend, a retired detective who used to work in child services. What do you know about Sarah Bennett? Grant asked. There was a long pause. Why are you asking? The man replied. Because I think her daughter is sitting in our station. In cuffs? Another pause. Then be careful, Daniel. Sarah didn't disappear by accident. She was silenced. And if you found her child, you're already in danger. That night, Grant sat with Emily in the station's safe room. No cameras. No microphones. She looked tired but calm. Emily, he said gently, tell me more about your mom. She sings to me, Emily whispered. Even when I sleep I hear her song. Grant was quiet, then said, do you know her name? Emily nodded. Sarah. She told me once, when I was small, but I wasn't supposed to say it. Why? They said she was bad. That she did bad things. But she didn't. She tried to help. She told me the truth. Then, they took her away. Who did? Emily looked up. I don't know. Men in suits. They told me not to talk. Grant's hands clenched. He knew it now. Emily had been taken to silence her mother's voice. Hidden, recycled through the system, given false names. No record. No trail. This wasn't just a bad foster home. This was a cover-up. The next morning, Grant received a sealed envelope at his desk. No return address. Just one word. Stop. Inside, a single photo. Him, sitting beside Emily in the safe room. A red X drawn over his face. He looked out the window. A black car was parked across the street. Same car from yesterday. He turned away quickly. This was bigger than him. But he had already crossed the line. He had promised Emily, and now he couldn't go back. That evening, he met with Alyssa, a reporter he trusted. She was young, bold, and didn't back down from stories that made others nervous. He placed the photo, the letter, and the note from Emily on the table. I need help, he said. Real help. She read each item carefully. Do you want me to expose it? She asked. No, Grant replied. Not yet. Then what? I want you to find Sarah Bennett. Alyssa nodded. If she's alive, I'll find her. And just like that, the wheels of truth began to turn. But far away, in a tall building with no signs on the door, a man watched Grant's photo under a dim lamp. He smiled coldly. Looks like we have a problem. Gentlemen, Officer Grant wants to play hero. Let's show him what happens when people don't follow orders. The sun had barely risen. A soft orange light touched the windows of the station. Inside, everything looked normal. Officers laughed over coffee, phones rang, reports printed, but Officer Daniel Grant knew nothing was normal anymore. He had stepped into something dark, and now, he was standing in the middle of it. Emily was still being held in the juvenile safe room. She had slept curled up on the small bench, holding her backpack tight. Grant stood outside the one-way glass, watching her. Her face was quiet, calm, but her eyes held a sadness deeper than any child should carry. She didn't ask to be part of this. She only wanted to find her mother, and Grant had promised her the truth. Suddenly, the phone on his desk rang. It was Chief Reynolds. "Grant," the chief said, voice cold and firm, "I want that girl transferred today." "Transferred where, sir?" "To a private child facility. Safer for her. Less attention." "Which facility?" "That's classified. Just sign the paperwork. Your job's done." The call ended. No explanation, no choice. But Grant didn't move. "Classified," he whispered. "She's a child, not a national secret." Something was wrong, terribly wrong, and Grant wasn't going to let her vanish again. He walked back into the evidence room, this time with purpose. Locked the door behind him, he pulled up the secure logs, every officer's access, every fingerprint scan, every deleted file. He scrolled through the recent entries, then paused. Emily's file had been opened 3 times before she was even brought in. The first access, a private user code 601 no 94 not registered to anyone in the department. The second access, same code. The third time, the file was erased. Grant frowned. Who was CO194? And how were they watching the station from the outside? He made a copy of the access log on a flash drive and slipped it into his coat. Just then, he heard something. A soft noise behind the door. He froze, turned slowly. A shadow moved past the frosted glass, then disappeared. He waited, heart pounding. But no knock came. No voice. Only silence. Back in the main hall, Grant walked over to Officer Lee. "I need to ask you something," he said in a low voice. Lee nodded. "Let's talk in the file room." Once inside, Grant closed the door. "Do you know anyone using the code CO194? he asked. Lee went pale. "Where did you hear that?" "Emily's file was accessed with that code before she even got here." Lee looked down, hesitated, then said, "That's a black badge code, federal level. We're not supposed to see it." Grant's chest tightened. "That's who gave the order to arrest her." Lee nodded. "Probably. That badge code, it means whoever's behind this isn't just hiding files, they're hiding people." Suddenly, an alert buzzed on the station's main screen. An officer had tried to release Emily. Someone had remotely approved her transfer. Grant ran. He burst into the juvenile holding area, but the door was open. Emily was gone. "Where is she?" he shouted. "Officer Simmons signed her out," the desk cop replied. "Said he had direct approval. Simmons is off duty today." Grant barked. The officer stuttered. "But the paperwork. It was authorized." Grant grabbed the logbook. The signature was fake. The timestamp was wrong. Emily had been taken. He jumped into his car and sped out of the lot. He didn't know where she was being taken, but he had one lead left. Alyssa. 10 minutes later, he pulled up to a small office where Alyssa worked. She opened the door before he could even knock. "They moved her," she said quickly. "I tracked a private transport vehicle leaving the station, but guess what? No destination, no route, just blank GPS." Grant stepped inside, breathing hard. "They're erasing her again," he said, "like her mother." Alyssa opened her laptop. "Then, let's stop them." Together they looked deeper into the records. Alyssa had found an old foster system, report sealed by court order but partially leaked years ago, but inside were names of children transferred and never seen again. No adoptions, no return, just gone. And one name stood out, Baby E. Bennett, 10 months old, vanished 9 years ago. "It's her," Grant said. "Emily." "And this goes higher than I thought," Alyssa whispered. "They're not just hiding kids, they're selling silence." Meanwhile, in a moving black van, on a back road, Emily sat with her hands tied. 2 men in black suits sat in front of her. She looked at them quietly, not crying, just waiting. "Where are you taking me?" she asked softly. One of them glanced at her in the mirror. "You don't need to know," he said coldly. "You'll forget everything soon." Emily clutched the photo of her mother in her pocket. She had hidden it from them. "He'll find me," she whispered. "Officer Grant," he promised. The man scoffed, but Emily's eyes didn't move. Back at the office, Alyssa pulled up old security footage from 10 years ago. A hospital hallway, a woman running, a baby in her arms, men chasing her. The screen froze. It was Sarah Bennett. Same face, same hair, same eyes. Alyssa zoomed in on a necklace Sarah wore. "Look," she gasped. The necklace was the same one Emily had drawn in her sketch, a silver heart. The proof was there. Grant stood up, jaw tight. "I need to go back to the station." "What are you going to do?" Alyssa asked. "I'm going to break every rule," he said, "and get her back." The van moved slowly through a narrow road surrounded by trees. The sky above was turning darker, and light rain started to fall. Emily sat silently in the back of the vehicle, her wrists loosely tied with a plastic band. 2 men in dark suits sat at the front. Neither of them spoke, neither looked back. But Emily wasn't scared anymore. She was tired. Her eyes were heavy, her hands gripped something tightly in her pocket, the small drawing of her mother, the one with the silver heart necklace. She had kept it safe. No one saw her hide it. The van hit a bump. She leaned forward a little and whispered to herself, "He's coming for me," he promised. Back at the station, Officer Grant stood in the locker room, changing into plain clothes. His police badge sat on the bench beside him. He had made his decision. No more waiting. No more obeying silent orders. He grabbed the flash drive with the sealed access logs. Then, he opened a storage drawer and pulled out something wrapped in cloth, his personal sidearm. One he hadn't used in years. They want silence, he said to himself, but I'm going to make noise. Before leaving, Grant stopped at Emily's holding room. It was empty now, of course. The bench still had her blanket, and next to it was a broken crayon. He picked it up slowly. It was purple, her favorite color. He put it in his pocket, his jaw clenched. Meanwhile, Emily stared out the window of the van. The rain was heavier now. Water slid across the glass. But the road signs were no longer familiar. No city names, no hospital names, just trees, fences, and long, quiet roads. One of the men finally spoke. His voice was cold. You'll have a new name, he said. A new file, new school. You'll forget this part of your life. Emily looked at him through the rearview mirror. I don't want a new name, she said calmly. I already have one. Emily Bennett. The man flinched. Who told you that name? My mom, she whispered. And Officer Grant. Now both men looked at each other. She saw fear in their eyes. Just for a second. At the same time, Grant met with Alyssa in her tiny apartment office. On the wall was a big corkboard. Newspaper clippings, maps, notes, and photos were pinned across it. Right in the middle, Sarah Bennett's face. I tracked the van, Alyssa said. It doesn't belong to the city. It's owned by a private security company, Black Hill Solutions. No real address. Just a shell company. Where are they taking her? Alyssa pointed to a spot on the map. Here, an old boarding school. Abandoned years ago. But reports show strange activity. Their deliveries, security, cameras. Grant grabbed his coat. Then that's where I'm going. I'll come with you. No, he said firmly. I need you to do something more important. He handed her the flash drive. Take this to the press. To the news, to anyone who'll listen. Blow this thing wide open. Alyssa nodded. But be careful, he added. They won't just come after Emily anymore. The rain poured harder. Now, inside the van, one of the men turned up the heater and radio. Classical music played softly. Emily sat still. Her head leaned back, but her mind was awake. She remembered the words Officer Grant whispered in the park when he arrested her. They lied to you, Emily. Your mother didn't leave you. She was taken, and I believe you. She remembered how her crying stopped in that moment, because for the first time someone had told her what she always knew was true. Her mother didn't abandon her. The world took her away, and now, they were trying to take her to. Suddenly, the van slowed. It turned onto a long gravel road. Ahead stood a tall iron gate, half covered in ivy. Beyond it, a large stone building with no lights. One of the men pressed a button on the dashboard. The gate opened slowly. As the van entered, Emily felt something in her chest, not fear. Strength. Meanwhile, Grant arrived minutes later, in a borrowed civilian car. He parked far off the road, grabbed his flashlight, and walked through the woods. With his hoodie pulled up. The boarding school stood quiet, but the van was there, parked just inside the gate. He crouched behind a tree, watching. Two men escorted Emily out of the van. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just looked forward. Grant's eyes didn't leave her for even a second. Hold on, kid, he whispered. I'm here. Inside the old building, Emily was placed in a room with white walls and no windows. A woman in a nurse's uniform entered. She carried a clipboard. Name, she asked coldly. Emily stayed quiet. Fine, the woman said. We'll write Jane Doe until further notice. She reached for Emily's arm, but Emily pulled away. I already have a name, she said loudly. The woman stared at her. Emily Bennett. The woman froze. Emily continued. My mom's name is Sarah, and you're all afraid of her. Suddenly, the door flew open. Officer Grant stood there, soaked in rain, flashlight in one hand, badge in the other. She's coming with me, he said. The men from the van rushed in behind him, but Grant was faster. He pulled out his sidearm. Step back, he ordered. You're not touching this child. The nurse tried to reach for her radio. Grant shot the radio clean off the table. Everyone froze. I've already sent proof of what you're doing here to the press, Grant said. You've got about 10 minutes before this place is crawling with people who aren't afraid of your little secrets. He turned to Emily. Let's go home. She stood and walked straight to him, tears finally filling her eyes. You came, she whispered. He nodded, gently placing his hand on her back. I promised, didn't I? As they walked out the building, headlights lit up the driveway. 3 black vans pulled in, but not the bad ones. This time, it was the news crews. Alyssa had done her job. She had blown the story wide open. Emily and Grant stood under the rain, surrounded by cameras and reporters. But Grant held up his hand. Let her speak, he said. Emily stepped forward, wet hair on her face, drawing still in her hand. She held up the picture of her mother. This is my mom, she said. They said she left me, but she didn't, and I never stopped looking. And for the first time the world listened. The video of Emily's rescue spread fast. By morning, every news channel was talking about her, about the girl who had been taken, about the brave officer who broke every rule to save her, about the missing mother, Dr. Sarah Bennett. The truth was out, but not everyone was happy about it. In a tall office building, far from the noise of the city, a man stood at the window. He wore a black suit, sharp, clean. His hands were behind his back. His eyes looked down at the street below, watching people move like ants. On the table behind him was a still image of Emily's face from the news. Her name printed below. Emily Bennett, survivor. A voice crackled through the speaker. She's gone. The officer took her. The man did not move. He only said, "Then we have a bigger problem than the girl." Officer Grant was sitting in a hospital waiting room. Emily had been checked for any harm. Thankfully, she was okay. Just tired, shaken, but safe. She was sleeping now, in a warm bed. A nurse sat beside her. A teddy bear rested in her arms. Someone had dropped it off during the press storm. Grant watched her through the glass. Every few minutes he would glance down at the letter he still kept in his jacket. "I didn't leave you. I was taken." He still didn't know where Sarah was, and something inside him told him the story wasn't over. Suddenly, Alyssa burst through the hospital doors. She looked excited but worried. "Grant," she said, pulling out her phone, "you need to see this." She showed him an email she had received. It came from a hidden account. No name, no sender. Inside was a photo of a woman, bruised, tired, but unmistakably Sarah Bennett. The message read, "She's alive, but not for long." Attached was a location. No name, just coordinates. Grant's heart pounded. This could be fake, Alyssa warned. Grant shook his head. "No," he said. "It's real, and they're trying to scare us into staying away." That night, Grant sat by Emily's bed. She opened her eyes slowly and smiled when she saw him. "I had a dream." She said she was singing to me again. "Your mom?" he asked softly. Emily nodded. "She said you're brave, and that you're close." Grant gently touched her hand. "I'm going to find her." "I know," Emily whispered, "because you don't lie." The next day, Grant drove alone to the location from the email. It was deep in the woods, miles from the city. No signs. No names. Just an old house, falling apart. With its windows boarded up, he stepped out of the car slowly, flashlight in hand. His fingers brushed over his sidearm. Just in case, the air felt heavy. Still, he walked up the front steps. Knock, 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 no answer. He turned the doorknob. It creaked open. Inside the house smelled like dust and cold air. Old furniture was covered in white sheets. A single photo frame hung crooked on the wall. A baby girl in her mother's arms. "Emily," Grant whispered. He kept walking, heart pounding. Then he heard it. A small sound, like breathing. He turned a corner and froze. There she was, Sarah Bennett, lying on a mattress on the floor. Thin, pale, but alive. Her eyes opened slowly. You're not one of them," she whispered. "No," Grant said, stepping closer. "I'm a friend. I found your daughter." Tears filled Sarah's eyes instantly. "Emily," she gasped. "Is she safe?" Grant nodded. "She's waiting for you." Before he could say more, headlights flashed through the broken window. A car pulled up outside. Not just any car, a black car. Grant rushed to the window and peeked through a torn curtain. Two men in black suits got out, walking fast toward the house. "They found us," Grant said quickly. He helped Sarah stand. She was weak, but still strong enough to walk with help. "We don't have time," he said. "We need to get out the back." But the back door was locked with chains from the outside. Whoever had hidden Sarah here never planned to let her go. Grant looked around and spotted a wooden beam. He swung it hard against the chain once, twice, 3 times, until it broke. They slipped out just as the front door opened. A voice inside shouted, "She's gone." Grant helped Sarah into the car. They drove fast, speeding through the winding roads, tires kicking up gravel. Behind them, headlights followed. A black car, fast, quiet, coming closer. "Buckle up," Grant said. He turned hard around a corner. The car behind slid, trying to keep up. Another turn, another. Suddenly, they reached the highway. Grant merged quickly into traffic and took an off-ramp into a parking garage. The black car didn't follow. They were safe. For now, back in the garage, Sarah was breathing hard. "I didn't think I'd see her again," she whispered. "I thought they had erased her completely." "They tried," Grant said, "but she remembered you." "She always remembered the song," Sarah said, smiling. With tears, Grant turned to her. "Come home. She needs you." Hours later, in the hospital, Emily sat on the bed, watching the door. Her eyes were wide, full of hope. Then, the door opened. And there she was. Sarah stepped inside, weak and trembling. Emily stared for a long second, then cried out, "Mom." She ran into her arms. They held each other tightly. No one said a word. Tears rolled down the faces of the nurses. Even Grant had to look away for a moment, wiping his eyes. The family that had been broken was finally whole again, but far away. The man in the black car stood in the dark, watching a screen. Sarah and Emily together. "The news story's spreading. They think this is over," he whispered, "but we've only just begun." For the first time in years, Sarah Bennett slept without fear. She was home, not in the house where she once lived, but in a small room at the hospital, just down the hallway from her daughter. Emily had refused to let go of her all night. She had fallen asleep curled beside her, one hand tightly gripping Sarah's fingers. Officer Grant sat outside the room, sipping lukewarm coffee, staring at the quiet hallway. He hadn't slept in nearly 30 hours. But he wasn't tired. Too much was still unanswered. Too many dangerous people were still free. Alyssa Quinn, the journalist, walked into the hallway, holding a manila folder. "I brought something," she said softly. Grant stood. "What is it?" Voice from the past, Alyssa said, opening the folder. Inside was a transcript. It had been buried in the archives for 10 years, part of an old investigation that was mysteriously shut down. Sarah Bennett's last public statement. It had never been aired, never shared, but someone had leaked it to Alyssa after seeing Emily on the news. Grant sat and read the words slowly. "My name is Dr. Sarah Bennett. I worked as a licensed child psychologist for over 15 years. I witnessed things: children taken in the middle of the night, sent to places not listed in the state database. Some were adopted without records, some disappeared completely. I tried to report it, but the system turned against me. My warnings were buried, and then they came for me." At the end of the statement, in red pen, someone had written, "Unstable. Dismiss." Grant looked up. They silenced her, buried the truth. Alyssa nodded. "And whoever did it is still watching." That morning, a press conference was called. The world wanted to hear from Sarah, but she wasn't ready yet. Instead, Grant spoke. For her, he stood at a small podium outside the hospital, microphones surrounding him, news vans parked across the street. 10 years ago, Sarah Bennett tried to warn us, he said. She was ignored. She was punished. Her daughter was taken, her name erased. And now, after all this time, mother and daughter are back together. But this isn't the end. This is the beginning of a bigger fight. He paused. Because if they could do this to her, they could do it to anyone. That night, Sarah asked Grant a question. "Do you know if my voice was ever heard?" He gave her the transcript Alyssa found. Sarah held it in her hands, stunned. This was sealed. Grant nodded. "Someone wants your truth buried, but we're digging it out." Emily sat at the window, looking up at the moon. Sarah walked over and sat beside her. "Do you remember the lullaby I used to sing?" she asked. Emily nodded. Sarah began humming softly, and Emily leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. For that moment, the world disappeared. Just a mother and her child, together again, but across town, in a dark building with no name. The man in the black suit stared at a table full of files. Emily's photo, Sarah's hospital location, Alyssa's address, Grant's badge number. He picked up a phone and spoke quietly. "It's time. We let her speak long enough. Silence them all." The next morning, Grant received a strange envelope. No return address. No stamp. Inside was a single photo. A picture of his sister's house, the one where his niece lived, written in red ink across the photo. "You've made enough noise. Stop, or we start." Grant felt a wave of cold. This wasn't just about Emily anymore. They were threatening his family. He quickly called his sister and told her to leave town. Take no chances. Go somewhere safe. Then he sat in his car and stared out the window. "They want war," he whispered. "I'll give them war." Back in the hospital, Sarah began writing. She filled page after page, remembering names, dates, details, everything she had seen and heard before being taken. "Why now?" Emily asked. Sarah smiled gently. "Because I want the world to know I wasn't crazy, and I want them to know you were always loved." Alyssa received an anonymous message, one she had been waiting for. A whistleblower. Someone from the inside wanted to talk. They agreed to meet at a diner just outside the city. Alyssa went alone. Hidden camera in her bag, microphone pinned to her coat. The man she met wore a hoodie and sunglasses. He didn't give his name, but what he said made her heart stop. "There's a list," he whispered. "Children taken from the system. Dozens of them. They call it Project Clean Line. It's run by a private group that works with law enforcement, judges, even politicians. They make kids disappear for people who pay. Sarah tried to stop them. That's why they took her." He handed her a small hard drive. "Everything you need is in here," he said. "But be careful. They don't let people walk away." Then he left. Alyssa clutched the drive like it was gold. She had what she needed. Later that night, Grant and Sarah sat in the hospital lounge. She had finished writing her statement. Alyssa joined them and placed the hard drive on the table. "This is it," she said. "This is how we finish it." Sarah looked down at it. "I've waited 10 years to be believed," she said quietly. "And now, the world will finally hear my voice." But outside, across the street, a black car waited. Inside, the man on the phone gave one final order. "They're talking too much. Burn it all." For the first time in years, Sarah Bennett slept without fear. She was home, not in the house where she once lived, but in a small room at the hospital, just down the hallway from her daughter. Emily had refused to let go of her all night. She had fallen asleep curled beside her, one hand tightly gripping Sarah's fingers. Officer Grant sat outside the room, sipping lukewarm coffee, staring at the quiet hallway. He hadn't slept in nearly 30 hours, but he wasn't tired. Too much was still unanswered. Too many dangerous people were still free. Alyssa Quinn, the journalist, walked into the hallway, holding a manila folder. "I brought something," she said softly. Grant stood. "What is it?" Voice from the past, Alyssa said, opening the folder. Inside was a transcript. It had been buried in the archives for 10 years, part of an old investigation that was mysteriously shut down. Sarah Bennett's last public statement. It had never been aired, never shared, but someone had leaked it to Alyssa after seeing Emily on the news. Grant sat and read the words slowly. My name is Dr. Sarah Bennett. I worked as a licensed child psychologist for over 15 years. I witnessed things: children taken in the middle of the night, sent to places not listed in the state database. Some were adopted without records, some disappeared completely. I tried to report it, but the system turned against me. My warnings were buried, and then they came for me. At the end of the statement, in red pen, someone had written, unstable, dismiss. Grant looked up. They silenced her, buried the truth. Alyssa nodded, and whoever did it is still watching. That morning, a press conference was called. The world wanted to hear from Sarah, but she wasn't ready yet. Instead, Grant spoke. For her, he stood at a small podium outside the hospital, microphones surrounding him, news vans parked across the street. 10 years ago, Sarah Bennett tried to warn us, he said. She was ignored. She was punished. Her daughter was taken, her name erased. And now, after all this time, mother and daughter are back together. But this isn't the end. This is the beginning of a bigger fight. He paused, because if they could do this to her, they could do it to anyone. That night, Sarah asked Grant a question. Do you know if my voice was ever heard? He gave her the transcript Alyssa found. Sarah held it in her hands, stunned. This was sealed. Grant nodded. Someone wants your truth buried, but we're digging it out. Emily sat at the window, looking up at the moon. Sarah walked over and sat beside her. Do you remember the lullaby I used to sing? She asked. Emily nodded. Sarah began humming softly, and Emily leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. For that moment, the world disappeared. Just a mother and her child, together again, but across town, in a dark building with no name. The man in the black suit stared at a table full of files. Emily's photo, Sarah's hospital location, Alyssa's address, Grant's badge number. He picked up a phone and spoke quietly. It's time. We let her speak long enough. Silence them all. The next morning, Grant received a strange envelope. No return address. No stamp. Inside was a single photo. A picture of his sister's house, the one where his niece lived, written in red ink across the photo. You've made enough noise. Stop, or we start. Grant felt a wave of cold. This wasn't just about Emily anymore. They were threatening his family. He quickly called his sister and told her to leave town. Take no chances. Go somewhere safe. Then he sat in his car and stared out the window. They want war, he whispered. I'll give them war. Back in the hospital, Sarah began writing. She filled page after page, remembering names, dates, details, everything she had seen and heard before being taken. Why now? Emily asked. Sarah smiled gently. Because I want the world to know I wasn't crazy, and I want them to know you were always loved. Alyssa received an anonymous message, one she had been waiting for. A whistleblower. Someone from the inside wanted to talk. They agreed to meet at a diner just outside the city. Alyssa went alone. Hidden camera in her bag, microphone pinned to her coat. The man she met wore a hoodie and sunglasses. He didn't give his name, but what he said made her heart stop. There's a list, he whispered. Children taken from the system. Dozens of them. They call it Project Clean Line. It's run by a private group that works with law enforcement, judges, even politicians. They make kids disappear for people who pay. Sarah tried to stop them. That's why they took her. He handed her a small hard drive. Everything you need is in here, he said. But be careful. They don't let people walk away. Then he left. Alyssa clutched the drive like it was gold. She had what she needed. Later that night, Grant and Sarah sat in the hospital lounge. She had finished writing her statement. Alyssa joined them and placed the hard drive on the table. This is it, she said. This is how we finish it. Sarah looked down at it. I've waited 10 years to be believed, she said quietly. And now, the world will finally hear my voice. But outside, across the street, a black car waited. Inside, the man on the phone gave one final order. They're talking too much. Burn it all. The courtroom was full. Every seat was taken. Reporters lined the back walls. Cameras were everywhere. People had waited weeks for this day. The day Emily Bennett's truth would be heard. Outside the courthouse, crowds stood behind barriers, holding signs. Justice for Sarah? We believe Emily. No more silence. For too long, powerful people had hidden dark secrets. But now, the world was watching. Inside, Sarah Bennett sat quietly at the witness stand. She held her daughter's drawing, the one with the heart in the sky. Emily sat in the front row beside Officer Grant, holding his hand. She wasn't afraid anymore. The judge entered the courtroom. Everyone stood. Then, one by one, names were read aloud. State of New York versus Director James Keller versus Dr. Rebecca Miles versus Warden Curtis Lang. 6 powerful figures, all connected to the secret project that took children from the system. All about to face justice. The prosecutor stood. Ladies and gentlemen of the court, she began. This is not just a case of corruption. This is a story about a little girl who was stolen, and a mother who never gave up looking. She turned toward Sarah. She tried to tell the truth. But instead of help, she was locked away, branded unstable, and her daughter was taken from her arms. Gasps filled the room. The defense objected. The judge allowed it. "Continue," he said. Then came the moment everyone waited for. Sarah took a deep breath. She looked across the room at the people who once tried to silence her. Then she spoke. "I was a child psychologist," she said. "I believed in the system, until I started seeing children vanish. Foster records that didn't match. Court decisions that moved kids without warning." She paused, her voice shaking. "I tried to stop it. I told my supervisors. I called child protection services. No one believed me. Tears fell. And then they took my daughter." The room was completely silent. Sarah held up the old photo of Emily as a baby. "I was told she was adopted, that I had gone crazy. But I never gave up. I never stopped hoping she'd remember me." She looked at Emily, and she did. The jury watched closely as Alyssa Quinn stepped up next. She explained how she received the anonymous drive, how she uncovered secret files, hidden bank payments, and false medical records. Then Officer Grant testified. He told the court how he met Emily in the park, how she whispered her mother's name, how no system had her listed like she didn't exist. He described the fake hospital, the escape, the fire meant to silence them all. He ended with one sentence: "The truth survived. Because one little girl remembered love." Then, a surprise witness was called. The whistleblower. The man in the hoodie finally revealed his face. He was once part of the secret project. He confessed that judges, doctors, and officials were paid to remove certain children, usually quiet ones, or kids with no living relatives. He said Sarah was targeted because she knew too much. "They broke the law," he said, "but she broke their silence." The defense tried everything. They called Sarah unstable. They said the girl's memory was too weak. They said the whistleblower lied, but the evidence was too strong. The photos, the documents, the old recordings from Sarah's storage unit, every lie was now exposed. After 3 days of testimony, the courtroom went quiet again as the jury returned. Everyone stood. The judge asked, "Have you reached a verdict?" The jury foreman nodded. "On all counts, guilty." Gasps, claps, tears. Emily looked up at her mother, eyes wide. "Did we win?" she whispered. Sarah smiled, tears falling. "We did, baby, we did." Outside the courtroom, the news exploded. Systemic child theft ring busted. Mother and daughter reunited after 10 years. Brave girl's memory brings justice. Sarah and Emily were invited onto talk shows. The president mentioned them in a speech. Laws were changed. A new system of checks was started. But for Sarah and Emily, the biggest victory was quieter. 1 month later, they moved into a small house with a garden. Not big, not fancy, but it was theirs. Emily painted her room purple. She hung the picture. She drew on the wall the one with the heart in the sky. Grant visited often. Alyssa too. They were family. Now sometimes Emily would sit in the garden and sing the lullaby her mother used to sing, softly, peacefully. She wasn't afraid anymore. One evening, Grant brought a surprise. He handed Emily a small envelope. Inside was a birth certificate, her real one, restored by the state. Name: Emily Grace Bennett. Mother: Dr. Sarah Bennett. Status: reunited. She held it close. "I finally exist," she whispered. "You always did," Sarah replied. That night, Sarah stood by Emily's bed, watching her sleep. She reached out and gently brushed a curl from her daughter's forehead. "You're safe now," she whispered. But then, a car passed slowly outside the window. Its lights flashed for a second. Then it disappeared. Sarah stared at the road. She knew not everyone would be happy with what they had done. She knew shadows would always remain. But this time, she wasn't alone, and she wasn't afraid.